Hello again, Internet Land. 2 videos in 1 week. Lucky you. 395 testing. So my 395 clone that I tied first in 6 cube up tip up last weekend, also put it on the dyno while I was there. Because that's the benefit of having friends like Joe. And did a 395 for a customer a couple weeks ago, but I've got a handful of salts from him and I'm wrapping them up, but I decided to go back in that one. Just small changes, just refine it a little bit. So I just ran them both together on the same chain and the same log. They both actually had 8 pins as well, although that was an accident, wasn't on purpose. And one of the conversations I've had with Joe lately are dyno savant, dynamometer savant Joe, dyno Joe, is that there is a pretty consistent correlation between cut times and dyno numbers. And so because I know the dyno number of my 395 clone, I thought, how does this OEM clone that I built as a work saw compare in cut times? And so I ran them. And I'm happy with the results. I don't know if I'm going to tell you what the dyno number was, because I'm not crazy about dyno numbers, but I know people care about that sort of thing. So anyway, here, watch it. The second cut with the OEM saw, it'll be right there. I kind of foobarred the test a little bit. The second cut, I got down to the bottom, was sort of sliding back, so that time's a little bit more inflated than it should be. So watch it and I'll talk afterwards. So as you see, they are very similar. The difference there, if you take best cut to best cut, about a 3% difference. You could take averages and compare them, but for this case, I chose not to, because like I said, that second cut on the OEM saw, I don't think really was a super fair test of it because of the way I pulled through at the end. And that's sort of the downside of testing with logs on the ground and long bars. Ran a long bar on it because I know he's going to run a longer bar on that saw, and I wanted to be able to tune it sort of with that kind of load. So I did that, but for the test, we stayed in the 20-inch pine, and we just stayed with that chain. It's a hex-filed Archer. So again, both saws had 8 pins. Both saws are within 3% of each other. There are very minor differences in the porting and the setup. Both have timing advances. Both have generous muffler mods. The muffler mod on the customer saw is a lot cleaner because it's not like the second one I ever did. And those 395 cans are a little bit... They're not just open cans. They're kind of annoying. But in any case, the 395 clone actually has 10 thousandths more out of the band, but it has a different exhaust height. They have very similar blowdown numbers, nearly identical intake numbers. So they're very similar builds with small differences that I like to look at to see sort of where I'm going in the future as far as builds and things like that. Jason, I believe, is going to be incredibly happy with that saw because it pulls very nice. With a good chain, that thing is just effortless. I ran it quite a bit in some other stuff, some hardwoods. It doesn't care. I mean, that thing eats. I should have tested that with a much more aggressive chain to try and load them up harder, but they were on the same chain, so the percentage difference is really what we were trying to see. So I'm not going to say what mine made on the dyno, because while dyno testing I believe is useful, I think it's unhealthy the way some people post big headline numbers as if that is the end-all be-all of saw building, because it's not. You can build a saw that makes... You can build a 10-horse 3-cube, and it might make all that power in this really tight peak. It's going to be a sucky saw to run. You're going to hate it. It's probably going to overheat really quick. Or you could build a reasonable 5.5 horse, 5 3/4, maybe even 6 horse 3-cube that's still hot, but has a much more broad torque curve. So that's going to be more usable of a saw, because it's not going to be really peaky. If you fall out of that peak of where the power is, the saw is not just going to stall because it has no power. You know, it's going to continue to run because it's got a broader curve. There's more power under the curve, as they say. So dyno is very useful information, especially if you're a builder like Joe. Joe's got one. I know some other guys have them. it's so incredibly useful. I think it would be to be able to make a run, then go and tweak the saw, make a change, and then run it again to see what changes there are on the graph, because being able to see where power's made, how it's made, is this producing torque down low, or is it making the RPM carry higher, which generates more horsepower? That to me, that's where a dyno is super useful. Not really in my 3Q made 7 horsepower, 8 horsepower, or whatever people, I don't know. So yeah, I'm not going to say what it made. I think the customer's going to be happy with this all, and chainsaws are fun. What else is there to say?